What's going on, everybody? It is Ian here with Miller Garage, and today I'm working on a really cool project. It's going to be for the 1966 Ambassador Airstream that we have going on in the shop. And as the saying goes here in Texas, everything is bigger in Texas. And so we got to stick with that trend when it comes to the Skylight for this Airstream. Yeah, that's right. So we had to have this custom made in this size because they don't really make them this big. They don't have that many options. There was one that was this big that was a smoke color, but the client wanted it in clear, so we had to custom order it. And this thing is massive. I mean, it's like nearly as big as me. It is 55 inches by, I believe, 28 inches. And we're gonna put it on this Airstream. And that's the challenge for right now. So obviously there's quite a few things that we gotta tackle and quite a few challenges when it comes to putting a Skylight this big into an Airstream. The first thing is the fact that Airstream's roofs are curved and the Skylight is flat. So that's one of the problems that we have to solve. The second thing is, from a structural standpoint, there's a lot of stuff that is going on in the roof. We have ribs, there's the attachment points for the skin, all that kind of stuff. And so we have to solve all of those problems when installing the Skylight. And so what I'm thinking, what I've come up with is that I am going to fabricate out of aluminum basically like a flange and a housing for the Skylight, and it is basically going to sit down into the roof, and it's going to bridge the gap essentially that's created by the curve to create a flat spot for the Skylight to sit on, and then it's also going to create that space between the exterior skins and the interior skins. And it's going to be an attachment point for all of our interior skins. So it's going to be a pretty in-depth project, but the vision that I have for it is going to be absolutely amazing, and it's I'm really excited about how it's going to turn out. It's going to be incredibly cool. So stay tuned. For the flange that the Skylight is actually going to mount to, I'm going to be using 2-inch square aluminum tubing, and basically like create the frame for it. And then there's some other cool stuff that I'm going to be doing with this to give it some aesthetic appeal, and also it's going to have lighting inside of the the inside part of the Skylight flange, so it's going to look really awesome. So the first thing I've already cut one side, and I measured, and I'm going to do a 45-degree cut on the other side. So this miter saw doesn't do a great job cutting wood, so I'm basically just using it for aluminum. It works really well. I had already cut all the rest of the pieces, and with them I had also cut this groove into the inside part of the flange, and that is how I'm going to put the lighting inside of it. So I'm going to put basically LED rope lighting, and then there's going to be a plate that goes on top of it that will have little screws that screw into it. I'll drill and tap it and everything so that there can be the little just kind of set screws to hold that plate on. And so I need to cut this same groove into this piece. And I have a super awesome new tool from Eastwood. This is their mini metal saw, and it's basically like a circular saw with a metal carbide blade, and this thing works awesome. It doesn't generate hardly any heat, and it has a collection system for like all the whatever you want to call it, the metal bits that come off, and it is really great. One of the cool things I like about it is it has this essentially this guard right here, so I can set it to the width I need to do and then just do a perfectly straight cut along this thing. So really excited about this, like it a lot. With the pieces all cut and prepped, the next thing I'm going to do is tack them all together and make sure everything is square and that it all fits together right. So I'm going to be using the Eastwood TIG 200 digital TIG welder to do the aluminum welding, and this thing is friggin' awesome. I am by no means an expert at this. I have had, some experience before, and I've been practicing since I got it, and I'm able to do pretty decent looking welds with it without, really having an extensive amount of experience and knowledge. So this thing's pretty epic. So I'm gonna brush the aluminum, clean it with acetone, and then start welding. All right, so we got that piece tacked. Looks great. And then I'm just gonna go and tack all the pieces together. And in theory, it should be a rectangle. Okay, I gotta show you guys this bead. I'm super proud of that. That is looking really good. And what sucks is I'm gonna have to grind it down to put the flange or the skins for them to be flush to the flange. So, but it doesn't mean that I'm getting better at this whole TIG welding thing. So the next thing is gonna be to cut out the hole in the Airstream itself. I was a little bit nervous whenever you're just cutting a giant hole in a trailer, but it's also really fun. So I'm gonna go at it. I'm gonna start by putting a hole with the hole saw and then use the nibbler to cut out the rest of it. I'm leaving the rib in here, and that's actually gonna be essentially like tied into the frame itself. And so I'm gonna cut it up to as close as I can get to the rib, and then I'm gonna have to go on the outside and use a cutoff wheel and very carefully cut it off of the rib. So That is amazing. That is going to be so huge. That is so cool. Yeah, so now that I got that out, so basically the frame is going to basically sit in here, and I'm going to notch it out to go around the rib, and then I need to like clean off the rib and everything because the rib is going to be visible. It's basically going to be like spanning inside the Skylight, so that's going to be really cool. I may come in and fill in some of these holes with the welder on the bottom of the rib where the skin's attached, and maybe try to straighten it out. It's a little bit bent in some areas, but yeah, man, this thing looks absolutely amazing. I'm super excited with how this is going to turn out. The next thing with this is going to be to make some flanges to actually have the Skylight housing attached to the Airstream. So the difficulty here is that we're obviously putting a flat square piece, squared off, not literally, it's rectangle, into a curved surface. And so obviously one of the difficulties is attaching it, and essentially what I'm doing, let me grab one from over here, is I've cut these flange pieces that are going to go around the Skylight frame, and that's going to be where I drill through and rivet it down to the shell. And so, you know, obviously to fit the curvature of the Airstream, like this one, these ones here on the side, they can be straight along it, but then they have to actually be like angled with the curvature of the Airstream. So basically I've made these little, you know, mounting pieces to make sure that the piece stays at the right angle, because I cut it at is like a 10-degree angle. So then I'm just clamping that onto this piece while I go along and weld it, and that'll keep it at the right angle. And then I have it clamped in place so it doesn't move around on me. The only downside is these were 54 inches long, and I have a 52-inch shear. And so I had to cut it with the electric hand shear, and the problem with that is, as you can see, it bent it. So I'm going to have to be very careful to make sure that I get it lined up straight as I go along and weld so that it's not all wavy. You know, I should be able to manage that pretty good. The other pieces, ironically, need to be curved slightly, but those I can cut with a shear. So you know, it's just part of it. So I'm going to get to welding this, and I'm going to be moving that piece along as I go. This will probably be a little bit of an in-depth process here. It's probably going to be a little bit tricky to get all this, so just stay tuned. Hopefully there won't be too many cuss words. Okay, now I'm just going to tack it into place as I move along, and then do all the finish welding obviously at the end, but I got to get it all lined up straight and positioned and tacked in first and foremost. All right, so we got the first one tacked on. Welds aren't obviously beautiful, but I will go back over the whole thing and it'll all look a lot better. I'm getting definitely better at the whole TIG welding thing. Really enjoying it, and just pretty cool, not gonna lie. So I'm basically gonna get everything tacked on, and we're gonna put it up in there and make sure everything fits good, looks good. I'm gonna have to probably trim the opening just a little bit more. There's a few spots it was rubbing and hitting on, so we're gonna do that. And then once everything is good, I'm gonna do all the final welding. We'll get it to where it is 100%, and then we'll work on the basically the finish out on the inside of the flange that's going to look just ridiculously awesome. Super excited about that. So I'm going to continue working on this, and we'll just move forward. So I finished welding up the frame for the Skylight, and it's actually installed in the roof as well. I went ahead and put it in there, and then it's buck riveted all the way around. You definitely want to buck rivet anything that goes in the roof. It's a place obviously that has a lot of water directly hitting it, and then I have to still put sealant all around on the inside, as well as put a lap sealant on the top. As you can see, I have also cleaned up this rib and put the holes in it. So I just cut holes in it and then used Eastwood's dimple die set to create that really cool look there. I'll get some close-up shots on that so you can see a little bit better what it looks like. We had already put the skins in, and I basically just wanted to get everything flushed up so I could fit it to the Skylight flange itself. I came in with a nibbler and got it as close as I could, and then used the die grinder to get it the rest of the way, and then I'm getting it just kind of like perfectly flush with a metal file to finish it off. So I'm going to end here, and this is actually going to be a two-part video series on doing the Skylight, just because there's so much detail and a lot to it that I wanted to do it in two videos. So in the next one, I'm going to be working on building the plates, as well as putting the LED lighting, painting everything. It's all going to be painted gloss white, and then finally putting the actual Skylight on top of it. I hope this was good information and inspiration for you guys. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and we will see you next time.